Hello and welcome to MMA Mic Drop. My name is Jade Bucky, and I'm joined by the one and only MMA Milo, who is not only an emerging MMA analyst, but also one of the nation's top up-and-coming youth surfers. In today's show, we're going to talk about UFC 308. Specifically, we're going to talk about what went down between Max Holloway and Ilia Topuria. What an incredible fight that was. We're going to talk about what fights to make for every fighter on the main card. And then I'm going to make the argument that Ilia Topuria is unequivocally not only the best featherweight in the world, but he is the best pound for pound fighter in the world. Let's get right into it. Milo, I mean, that was an absolutely crazy fight. It was a very close fight until it wasn't. Give me your initial thoughts on that fight.
Yeah, I thought I was gonna go to decision at first because it was kind of back and forth, and Ilya was landing some good shots, but Max seemed to just, like, eat him. But, I mean, until he got in the pocket, and then that was over, he just got knocked out.
Yeah, it was crazy because the first 2 rounds, I mean, Max was looking good, and this makes Ilya's performance that much more impressive because he was fighting a good Max Holloway, a prime Max Holloway, and Max was outpacing him on the volume. Ilya, like you said, he was landing, I think the bigger shots, but nothing that really rattled or hurt Holloway in the first 2 rounds. And Holloway, had the edge on volume, and I thought Holloway was winning both of those rounds just slightly. I know a couple judges had Ilya 2-0, and I think one of the problems is that first round is Max looked like he slipped, and that was, and they don't replay it. The judges
Yeah.
replay it, and so I don't think they really saw that. They probably saw that as a knockdown because that was a close round. I'm comfortable with anybody giving it 2-0 Ilia Topuria, 2-0 Max, or 1-1. Personally, I had it 1-1. I gave Max the first. I gave Topuria the second. But it was so close, and what was so impressive, because we didn't really know. We knew Ilia Topuria was good, but we just didn't know how good. And I'll get into
Yeah.
that in a moment. But when he was going toe to toe with Max, and in the boxing, and I started thinking, well, wow, this guy is as good as he says he is. What are your thoughts on how that fight was progressing, and what do you thought about how Ilya was performing up until he knocked Max Holloway out?
Yeah, I was surprised that he was able to stay in the pocket and, like, not just get, like, pushed out by Max's, like, the spinning kicks and that he has, but I was, like, so scared for Max after, like, that first 2 rounds. I was like, "Uh-oh." I guess, like
Yeah, I was very I was on edge. I was worried for Max too. I was rooting for Max. I mean, he's my favorite fighter. I wanted him to win, and but at the same time, you're looking at Topuria and you're watching greatness because one of my things where I did pick Max to win, and when I was breaking down the fight, you look at Topuria and he's been incredibly impressive. But then I start looking at those wins, the 3 big wins that he had, it was like, Josh Emmett, Volkanovski, and Bryce Mitchell. Those were the 3 big wins that really catapulted him, to where he is now. And, I started to think, well, Volk, he's 35, but he's coming off a knockout. Was he just, maybe did he lose his step, right? And then I look at Josh Emmett. Well, I mean, he's old. I think he was 38 when they fought. And then I look at Bryce Mitchell. Well, he's not as good as he thought we thought he was. But then I started to, after I gave my pick, I started to think about this again. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. He still handled Bryce Mitchell in his wheelhouse, in the grappling. So we knew Topuria's grappling was next level. And what would happen though if he fought a prime featherweight? And that's what he did. And that's why I'm so much more impressed with Ilia Topuria than I would have been if it was just he caught him and he was losing the fight, or if Max was running away with it, or he caught him, or if he even outpointed him, is that he got a prime Max Holloway who was looking sharp, who was looking crisp. And when they got in the pocket and they exchanged, I mean, Topuria showed that, I mean, there is a different level to his power.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Max is scared of his power the whole time. He knew, like, if he get caught, he could be in a lot of trouble, but, yeah, I was surprised that he was able to do that.
Yeah, and it was shocking. And what's interesting? I thought, during I was disappointed because Max didn't win, but I wasn't really bummed out, which I thought I would be. And I realized why. I think it's because I had the realization that I was watching greatness. Ilia
Yeah.
Topuria is the best pound for pound fighter in the world. And, I mentioned I'd get to that at the end. I'm going to get to it right now, and then we'll talk about who we should match all these guys up with next. When you look at what it means to be pound for pound best fighter, you're basically saying if all these guys are the same size, who would win in a fight, right? And right now, Islam Makhachev is pound for pound, and hey, fair argument. I mean, he's been dominant. But if you look at where these guys are, um, you can say, okay, Islam might be a slightly better grappler or a better grappler. Okay, Topuria is an excellent grappler as well. But the difference is he can't. Makhachev can't strike like a Topuria can, and not even close. I mean, I don't even think they're in the same universe, and particularly with Topuria's power. And so when I'm looking at him, I'm thinking, he's unequivocally pound for pound best. And then I look at somebody like John Jones. Well, John Jones won't even fight the best fighter in his division, and Tom Aspinall. You can't even put him in the pound for pound rankings right now.
Yeah.
And so that's who I would vote for best pound for pound fighter. So Milo, tell me, do you think Ilia Topuria is the best pound for pound fighter right now? And if not, who is?
No, I don't think so. I think he's definitely second. I think Islam first. But I think he's definitely the fighter of the year, even over Pereira.
Yeah, that was a
I
good
mean,
conversation. Tell me more about that.
I think Ilya beat Alexander Volkanovski, who has like the best featherweight of all time, and then Max, who's like looked so good in his last fight, and he looked good in that fight. And if like Alex Pereira, who the other person is, like that people think should be the fighter of the year, I think the people he beat have no title defenses. And then he beat what was his last fight? Who was the last fight again?
Oh, Little Roundtree.
Yeah, he beat him, who was like the number 8 ranked guy or something.
Yeah.
So I think Ilya, I think he actually deserves that fighter of the year slot.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it really does right now come down to those two, because what Alex Pereira has done has been remarkable, because he's not only beating guys, he's knocking them out. But so is Ilia Topuria. And you brought up a good point. You're looking at Volk was considered the GOAT at featherweight, and Max is the next best guy. I mean, those are the 2 best featherweights in history. And Topuria didn't just beat them; he knocked them out both early. Like, I mean, to me, that is shocking that he did it back to back. I would have to give the edge for fighter of the year there. And what this tells me is, yeah, dude is as good as he says he is. And so my question to you, Milo, is who do you match up Topuria with next, and who do you match up Max Holloway with next?
I mean, I would like to see Topuria versus Makhachev, but I think he's gonna fight Volk next, he said.
Yeah.
And then after that, I think he should fight Diego Lopes, and then he should move up to the lightweight. But for Max should take some time off after that.
Yeah, that was pretty.
I think he should fight the winner of actually, I think he should go up to lightweight and maybe like Dan Hooker or something.
Ooh, that's a good one. So I'll get to mine in a minute, because Dan Hooker's in that conversation. So I think those are all great matchups. Dana White has confirmed it's going to be Volkanovski. And I know, I think in terms of competitive appropriateness, I think Diego Lopez should be, the next one in terms of compelling matchup. But I'm okay with the UFC doing this for 2 reasons. Number one, Volk's earned it, so he deserves another crack at it. I think it's going to end the same way, but he deserves another crack at it. And I'm okay if they go to Spain to almost have a showcase fight for Ilia Topuria to build his brand in that market. And so for those reasons, I'm okay with that. And then, yeah, I think, you get Diego Lopez, after that. And then Mosvar, the winner of Mosvar and Aljamain Sterling. I mean, who knows? Maybe the winner of Lopez, and then the winner from fights Topuria after both fights Topuria.
Yep.
So
that's good.
Yeah. So I think that division's settling itself up. And I agree with you. I think Max should go up to lightweight. He's even said so. And what I'm thinking, it's interesting you mentioned Dan Hooker, because I think Max is such, a megastar, is that you want to leverage his brand value in big fights. Right now, he has the BMF. And so you need somebody who's worthy of a BMF. The first thing I was thinking was, what about Conor McGregor?
Really?
I think that's the best fight you can have Conor McGregor come back to. You can't have him come back to a title shot, but if you have a BMF and, you have him coming out, 155,
Yeah.
if he can get down to that, even a catchweight at 160, if Max, can get up to that, I think a BMF with Conor McGregor, the
That
set
would be good.
pay-per-views would go through the roof. Now, McGregor's too unreliable. I'm still thinking BMF. Dan Hooker, I think he has that number 5 next to his name now. So Dan Hooker, because the BMF, it's not about just if you're a good fighter. There's got to be a little something extra about you. There's got to be something, that X factor, that level of toughness, that grit, just something that's not quantifiable. And
Yeah.
Dan Hooker has it. And I think, talk about an appropriate person to fight for the BMF, and Holloway, Dan Hooker at number, also for like the number 5 ranking spot, and it puts Max Holloway back into the title mix at 155, which you could say he's
Mhm.
kind of there right now in the rankings. So it's one of those two. Yeah, so I think that would be the way to go. What would
Yep.
you rather prefer? Max versus McGregor, or Max versus Hooker?
I mean, to watch, I think I'd rather have Max versus Hooker because I don't know who wins that fight, but I think McGregor versus Max, I think Max will destroy him.
Max smashes him. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's fouls on him all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. All right, so let's talk about matchups for Khamzat Chimaev and Robert
Yeah.
Whittaker. Oh my goodness, talk about another shocker. We knew that Khamzat Chimaev is good.
Yeah.
Really good, right?
I was
And
surprised. Yeah.
yeah, I was surprised it ended like that. And Robert Whittaker said, he has some issues with his bottom teeth, and that's what happened. I guess a couple of his bottom teeth got smashed
Yeah.
in, with his forearm. But when you look at that fight, he shoots so quickly and he's so
Yeah.
relentless. And Whittaker was doing some, decent stuff on the ground to keep himself out of trouble. But at the end of the day, you just beat the number 1 ranked fighter in the
Yeah.
division in a couple minutes, and
Kind
did
of
so. Yeah, and I
insane.
don't think Robert Whittaker landed a punch. So tell me what you thought about that fight, and against whom would you like to match up Chimaev next?
I think I thought actually Robert was gonna get it done, but I was so surprised how fast he put him out. I
Yeah.
thought I thought it was gonna be a decision, but definitely wasn't. It was insane.
Yeah, it was insane, and that's what a lot of people thought, that maybe Whittaker could survive that first round, and that's where I was a little torn, because I figured it could be quick. I didn't think it would be that, maybe that quick. I was thinking maybe, end of the first round, early second round, if Chimaev, is running on all cylinders. But then, the question is, does he gas? And if Whittaker survives, I took Whittaker to, just survive
Yeah.
and then start styling on him on the last few rounds. And plus, I was curious, what about Whittaker's takedown defense? How would he mitigate against that, superior grappling and so forth? And, what would he do? And yeah, showed that Chimaev is next level. So who would you match him up with next?
I think he should get the title
I
for
agree.
sure. Yeah.
So you're getting,
After Sean Strickland, I think he should just wait and then get the title.
yeah, I agree. To me, it is a no-brainer. It's the no-brainer of no-brainers, right? I think, one, can DDP beat him?
Yeah.
There's serious questions. Now, the thing is, DDP is an excellent grappler. The best grappler that Chimaev has faced was Gilbert Burns, and Burns took him
Yeah.
rounds, but that's all the way at welterweight. Now you have a big grappler, but DDP is not as quick as Khamzat Chimaev.
Mhm.
Uh, that's a good matchup. Who would you favor coming out the gate?
After that, I think Khamzat.
Yeah, so would I. I'd have to favor him too. It's
Yeah.
yeah. And then in terms of Robert Whittaker, I would actually match him up with Sean Strickland.
Uh,
I would,
yeah.
I'd say you got to fight another one, and I think that's
That's a
straight.
good fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you agree with that, or would you match him?
I agree. I agree.
All right. And then the featured fight was Magomed Ankalaev versus Rakić. Not the most exciting fight, but a really good technical fight. Neither of those guys are, are really exciting fighters. They're both really good and high level and, really methodical and measured. And that's what we saw. Magomed Ankalaev won. Milo, against whom would you catch him up?
Oh, I think give him the title too for against Alex Pereira.
Yeah, I think it's time. And, it's funny. I think, a lot of people were talking about, his wrestling. Would that be a problem with Pereira? He's been training for a couple years now with Glover Teixeira, I mean, and he showed some things even in his first venture into light heavyweight against Jan Blachowicz. In terms of at least some defensive grappling acumen.
Yeah.
And I imagine he's a lot better now. And then at the end of the day, Pereira just has to hit you once. And if Magomed Ankalaev stands at distance like he did with Aleksandar Rakić for the majority of the fight, Pereira's going to knock him out.
Yeah.
I don't see that as
agree.
the big risk that a lot of people do. Hey, MMA, anything can happen, but I want to see that fight. Aleksandar Rakić, I would give him if Dominic Reyes beats Anthony Smith, I'm giving him Dominic Reyes.
Oh.
I think that would be a good fight. And there was one other fight I was thinking Carlos Ulberg would be the other one. If Carlos Ulberg gets past, I think he's fighting Uzdemir next. And so either one of those, who would you choose? Uzdemir, or I'm sorry, Ulberg versus Rakić, or
I think I'd choose the Dominic Reyes fight.
yeah, I think that would be cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would allow him to, that's a good fight. That'll
Yeah.
allow him to shift the rankings a little more quickly too. All right. Before that, we had Dan Ige versus Lerone Murphy. It looked like Ige was going to put him out early. He hurt him. He stunned
Yeah,
him.
you heard him.
And then he looked a little tentative the rest of the fight. I don't know if he suffered an injury or something. But Lerone Murphy, he got the job. And didn't look like he looked okay, even though he won. Didn't look, nothing that really jumped out at me. And so, I'm not giving him a top guy at featherweight. I am going just one up. I'm going to give him Giga Chikadze. Who would you give him?
I'm gonna give him Josh Emmett.
That's a good one. That's a good.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Does Josh Emmett? Do you know if he has a fight scheduled already with somebody, or?
Let's see, Josh.
That's a good one too.
No, it doesn't say he has a fight schedule with anybody.
I like that. I like that a lot. I might even change my mind. Josh Emmett. It's a great matchup.
Yeah.
And then let's see. Danny Ige. So he lost. He's already at 14. He might be, at 15. When the updated rankings come out. But nonetheless, he's at the tail end of that. He's coming off 2 losses. I would still give him the winner of Brian Battle and I think it's Randy Brown, because I think both of those guys are maybe top 15 worthy, and I think that's a good matchup, particularly Randy Brown. I think Randy Brown's a top 15 fighter. I think he would be a couple of the guys that are in the top 15 right now. So that's who I would give Danny Ige. Do you have anybody in mind for Danny Ige?
Maybe Bryce Mitchell.
They already fight, or that'd be an interesting fight. Bryce is one up on him. Wait, they already fought? They already fought.
Let's see. Oh, they did.
Yeah, that's right. Also, I'm having him fight one of the more up and coming guys, even though Randy Brown's not considered necessarily up and coming, but Brian Battle is. That's why I like the winner of that.
Like maybe Edson Barboza.
Have they already fought?
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, they have in 2020.
Okay.
It was a split decision though.
Oh, maybe run it back.
Yeah.
I'd be
Danny one. That'd be a good fight.
All right. And opening the card, Sharaputdin versus Petrosian. It's interesting. So when Shar came out, after his, first fight in the UFC, I was completely sold on him. And then after his last fight, I was like, yeah, maybe he's not as good as I thought he was, because I thought Tricoli's a guy he could have, got out there a little more easily if he, had some higher volume and a little more aggression. And I picked Petrosian in a to win by decision in a very good back and forth point fight. I mean, they were going to try to outpoint each other, and I thought that's what we were getting, and I thought it was close, and I thought Petrosian won the first round. I thought Magomed, was winning the second round, and then all of a sudden he had that next level double spinning back fist, which I've never
That
seen
was
before. That
insane.
was so nuts, and it just showed how
Yeah,
maybe he's a little better than I thought.
yeah,
Who would you match him
same.
up against? Whom would you match him up against next?
I think he should just fight Paul Acosta.
That'd be so sick.
Yeah, that'd be a really good
It
fight.
seems like Paulo Costa's so much bigger than him, but he's like, they're in
Yeah,
division, huh?
it's crazy. I thought like Charles like he's so small, but he's
Well, it's
definitely not.
interesting. Yeah, it seems like he'd be so small. It almost seems like they're
Yeah,
different divisions, but yeah, you're
yeah,
right. Um,
crazy.
they're talking about giving him a top 15. I think he wants the top 10. If you want to give him the rankings, I'd give him Chris Curtis. It's number 15.
Oh, good start.
He's a good boxer, but he's also, you know, um, slower than Char Bullets. So if you want to continue to elevate Char's
Yeah,
Bullets brand with that, with winnable yet reasonable fights, I would go there.
yeah. That is a good start off to the top 15 for him. I think.
Yeah, and then Petrosian, I really haven't thought about that. I mean, he's not even in the rankings yet. Just another mid guy. He has some good wins. I mean, he's a solid fighter. Um, I believe he's 3-3 in the UFC now, something like that. But he's solid. He's solid. Um, I don't have any fights for him right now. Do you?
No,
Right. So yeah, before we conclude, any last thoughts on this fight card? Any things that was shocking or surprising or interesting or, I mean,
I think
everything
I think it was also surprising about that Khamzat fight. I was like really surprised how fast he just ran him over. That was like the biggest surprise to me.
is, yeah. Yeah, it was a great card. I mean, it delivered from top to bottom. I mean, I think when we look back, when we look at Ilia Topuria's legacy, 10 years from now, you're going to look at this, these two moments, Max Holloway and Volkanovski going, wow, this dude really was the real deal. And he's only 27 years old. Incredible, incredible. I know a lot of people were picking him still, to me, pretty shocking that it went down like that.
Yeah,
And again, it was the fact that he was going toe to toe with Max Holloway. Well, Max Holloway was looking great. But it was, Topuria, man. I mean, what a beast and
he's
hot.
good.
What a beast. All right, Milo, any last word?
Drop the mic.
We're out.